Hey, what's up, guys? This is Chris, and I'm here with my cousin Nano, and we're shooting a podcast today on both diseases and COVID-19. So, this is our first YouTube video coming up. Go ahead and subscribe to us. Leave some comments. Leave some topics of things you want us to cover, or anything in particular. This YouTube channel is created for everyone to have a voice on here, and we're gonna start. This is like a community where whoever was muted or speechless, not able to express their feelings, this is the channel to do it on. Go ahead and let your friends, family members, just anyone who has a thought or opinion on something, let them know that we have this channel going, and this is people friendly. We're gonna keep it people friendly, and no damning each other. We're just all friends in here. We may learn from others' knowledge. We may expand our minds with other people's thoughts. So we're all here for help, and just expanding our minds. So today, like I said, we're doing a podcast on diseases and COVID-19. So, what you want to start with, Nano?
Well, I would love to start with the fact that last time what we were talking about was like the what it means to live a good life, right? What does that mean to strive for like a perfect life? And the pandemic that we're living in today, you have a whole different idea of what that looks like. Obviously, if you have a high level of an immune system, then you're bound to beat this COVID-19. But when you're somebody who actually faces disease, now we're gonna have a whole different conversation. This is something that's gonna be an attack on your immune system, which in the health system that we have today, right? We're striving for that good life, that idea of a perfect life. What does that look like? And systematically speaking, it doesn't look good for being Latino or being poverty or being like gay even, because if you're somebody who has a disease, then being that person, you're not gonna overcome something that what we are seeing today is something like COVID-19, right? You're not gonna live through COVID-19 if you don't have your immune system up to par. But when we start looking at what does a good life mean, well, having a healthy immune system is going to be just that.
Yeah.
But when you don't have resources, when you don't have things that acquire housing, if you don't have something that acquires like a safety net, then, or let alone if you're somebody that lives their everyday life without health care, is COVID-19 going to be your best friend? Hell no.
No.
Because on top of the fact that it's a virus that's going to attack your own immune system, it's also going to be something that's going to attract debt. It's going to be something that's going to attract the diminishing of your own health. But on top of that, your death in itself. Like you might not make it out of this because you're going to have not just accumulating debt, but you're also going to have a deteriorating immune system. There's this image that went a little bit viral for a moment about like what a normal lung looks like, a healthy lung looks like, versus a lung that has been contracted with COVID-19.
Yeah.
And it's it's a deteriorating lung, because that's exactly what happens, right? It's a respiratory system, respiratory virus that's going to attack our respiratory system.
Oh yeah.
So I look at it in terms of like something like disease, and our nation has a disease of fear and anxiety. Anxiety in itself is a fear response from our cortisol, and when cortisol rushes your lungs, it's gonna not know to breathe. It's not gonna know how to inhale or exhale. When you have that on top of COVID-19, your body's already reacting to that, and so that's gonna be a whole system effect of how healthy can this person, or let alone let's let go of the fact that, because obviously this person's not healthy, right? How successfully is this person gonna be able to breathe, right? Last time we were talking about brutality, living a good life, and hitting the certain keys areas when it comes to like racism. But you add all of that on top of this virus that we're, right, the reason for this whole pandemic, the this is going to make it so much more increasingly difficult to navigate the system, right? Because we have a freedom of speech.
Yeah.
But when we're supposed to stay at home, how can we use that voice or mobilize together to use our voice in terms of power and decrease this idea of like what the pandemic that we're seeing? You can't do it, and that's what we're seeing today. Like, we're still having this fight against police brutality, but also we're supposed to be staying at home, right? We had a curfew on protesters, and if they weren't going to meet that curfew, what was going to happen to them in terms of this COVID-19?
Yes.
Right? So on top of the fact that they're protesting, the fact that they're not letting them breathe, now this virus isn't letting them breathe, but also now because of this virus, their own free right of freedom of speech is taken away. Their own free right to freely speak for what they believe in is taken away because of this virus that's going to keep them from being unable to breathe. And this is why I really wanted to have this conversation today, because I was thinking to myself, like, people are dying because they can't breathe because of COVID-19, but they're also dying because of police brutality. They cannot breathe because of the reality of the pressure that's put upon us when it comes to police brutality.
Yes.
So, like, yes, I get that we've been living in a pandemic, and when we start living in a pandemic, we're going to have, like, these things called stimulus checks. But let's have the conversation that we have yet to have about compensating folks for their inability to be able to breathe, to live their lives. Because that's what's happening in America. And I love that we have a podcast that we're able to talk about it and have that conversation.
Yes.
But just kind of bring into light how all these different health issues, race issues, just systems of oppression that we've seen in our society, right? Because even if you are gay, you're going to be struggling with the fact that AIDS is real, it's a disease, a virus, right? That alone is going to be what's going to kill you, not necessarily COVID-19. Those two factors in themselves, I mean, you're kind of duped. But when you have a lot more pressure in terms of a system of government that's going to pressure you into, again, not being able to breathe, on top of the fact that you can't even breathe or your lungs are already working hard enough to be able to breathe on their own, let's have that conversation.
Yeah. So
let's have that conversation, and let's have it in a way that's going to be effective, right? Like, I'm not just trying to bash our government, and I'm not just trying to highlight or bring into aspect these different other issues that are also very, very common in what we see in everyday life, like lack of healthcare. A Latino who's struggling through the healthcare system, they're not going to have money for their bills. Yeah. And also they can't go to work because of their health conditions. Exactly. So let's have that conversation and you know, like bring forward to light some type of, what's the word? Not solutions, because we can't just solve the world in one night or yet one podcast, but we can actually start having conversations and shift this conversation to what we need to do as us, like just being us ourselves, like me, you, Primo, what can we do? Yeah. And it on top of the fact that we're providing a platform to have the conversation, what else can we do?
So you're saying how the government basically, so how COVID is affecting us breathing wise, respiratory, our respiratory system, and how you're saying how the government is, or how police brutality is also cutting or holding hold on our throats. You saying that, I feel like how you said, you don't want to bash the government, but the thing is, it kind of seems kind of communist to me, because all this is going on and they're taking advantage of this. Like, for example, we're self-quarantined. We can't go out. We're giving it a certain amount of money monthly sometimes. Think of North, like for example, North Korea, how they live, how the people there live. They can't do so much thing. They can't do anything without their dictator having any eyes on them. So I kind of feel like while this is going on, the government kind of takes advantage and makes it seem like we're living in the communist, like a little communist era at this present times. Because like I said, we're all eyes on us. So like I said, we're not we're giving a certain amount of money. It's called the stimulus check. We're supposed to make it through, pay our bills with so little money, but at the same time we get those bills paid, but we're stuck in the same spot because um, we don't have money to feed ourselves, and then that's one thing we're being affected. Also, we're like how you said, we're not able to come outside and use our freedom of speech, because we're self quarantined. We had to stay inside. So like it kind of seems communist to me, don't you think? It's, I mean, in a way it does, but in a way it doesn't. But it's like,
you know what? Oh, sorry. Go.
Go. You're good. You're good.
Now, all I was gonna say, the only difference between communists and what we're doing now, at least in terms of what I recognize in terms of communism and our own democratic society, is that we're not patriotic about what we're doing. Like, communist China was proud to be the Republic of China.
Yeah.
Cuba was proud to be Cuba, right? Like, these communist countries they did it for
they didn't speak for themselves,
their
right?
Political power, their political movement.
Yeah.
Whereas we're a democratic society. How is what we're doing democratic in any way whatsoever?
Yeah.
Let alone communist, because we're also not proud to be quote unquote American. When we're not one nation. We're a nation that's brought up by many immigrants from years and years of that. But on top of that, we were immigrants who actually took this land away from people who are indigenous folks here, whose land belonged to them, and we took it away, right? As being Americans.
Yes.
That's what we're call ourselves. On top of that, like, there's just this whole other level of where you have systematic oppression, where it's going to be that black folk. Because that black folk was brought to this nation without wanting to be brought here in the first place. Like, they were taken off the shores of Africa in terms of being slaves.
Exactly.
So, like, they didn't have any rights when they came in here. And then, all of a sudden, they get these rights, quote-unquote rights, right? The right of freedom.
Yeah.
But that's just on a passage of, like, I mean, when you start looking at what criminal law was saying, I mean, anybody at that time in history, I mean, if you didn't have a home, you were considered a criminal.
Yeah.
Not having a home, you're considered a criminal. How are you supposed to have a home when prior to 2-3 weeks ago you were considered a slave?
Yeah.
Like, understand the root of that and the root of what that does to our society. And when we're having a conversation about disease, lack of income, lack of health, necessity, right? We need health, and in order to gain health, we have to have some type of prosperity. These things have not happened. So, to me, I think of it like, okay, let's look at that as a disease, because essentially that's what it is. But then we have this whole pandemic on COVID-19, and like people getting, like you're saying, like those stimulus checks to kind of help us. Yes, it's a form of communism, but it's a complete reverse form of communism. We're not even proud to be American in the first place.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
we're not proud to call ourselves American when we're the first nation power to be number one when it comes to death tolls of COVID-19 or folks who have been infected by COVID-19. And then we start looking at those numbers. Oh my gosh! Like, it gets even more scary.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is too. Let's bounce into COVID-19. Like, deep into it. So, like how you're saying, the tallies, they just keep rising and rising and rising. But the thing is, I see that
let's just know, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but let's know, as our numbers keep rising as Americans, right? As America's numbers keep rising, other superpowers, other nations, their numbers are coming down.
Yeah.
Their numbers, they're not getting cases like we're getting still today.
Yeah, I think,
and then we'll talk about that a little bit further into what we're going to do. Go ahead, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries. And like how I was trying to say is, during this pandemic, I see a majority of people are very selfish. Like how you're saying, like for example, for us, the Latino community, we're high in diabetes, anxiety, just respiratory dysfunctions,
Poverty.
yeah, poverty, everything. And like I said, during this pandemic, I've seen a lot of people become very selfish. They're like, well, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't have diabetes. I don't have any respiratory any sicknesses, diseases, or anything like that. Any cardiac failure, anything like that. And it's sad to see that, because like how we were talking before about the are we a threat to humanity? And yes, like this here just explains it. Like, here's your facts. People, I'm not saying everybody, but a majority of people are just like, I'm not wearing that mask. I'm good. I'm healthy. That's not my fault. They weren't healthy. But see, that the thing is, we gotta pick our people up. And I'm not saying Latinos or Chicanos or just Mexicans in general. I'm saying everybody, the human race. We all gotta fight this together, you know. A lot of people too. What a lot of people always tell me, like I talk to random people about this. Like, hey, what do you think about COVID-19? And they're like, well, to tell you the truth, it's just like the flu. And then I go, yeah, it's true. It may be just like the flu. I go, but WHO, WHO, and CDC, what they're trying to do is they're trying to prevent this to become what the flu was before. When influenza first came out, there was more death than World War One and World War Two put together. Influenza, yes, exactly. And the thing is, if this is just like the flu, think about it. It's not that who or the CDC are saying, like, it's just like the flu. Don't worry about it. No, they're trying to prevent this from happening again, from the first time it happened with influenza. Think about it. Influenza came out in the early 1930s, and they didn't come out with a vaccine for influenza until like mid 1940s, early 1940s. Think about that. Like, do you guys really want to go? Do you guys really want to go through that again? You know, and that's why I feel like.
I'm cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, we can do preventative things like wear a mask, wash our hands, sanitize ourselves, because we have that. Versus in 1930, we didn't have the
exactly
that we had back then. Well, we didn't have the knowledge that we have then. But on top of the knowledge that we have now, we have what we called last time wisdom. We called it intelligence. We had
experience
over the knowledge, over what our factual thing is. We have the experience.
Exactly.
So we're not starting from scratch.
Exactly.
We're not starting from fresh.
Yeah. we didn't experience it, but we were told about this in history, and to neglect this and not acknowledge what happened before, I think, like I said, it's selfish. It's careless. And then the same people that say, oh, it's just the flu, are the same people that are gonna get sick, or they're gonna see one of their loved ones get sick, and then they're like, oh, well, put a mask on, guys. You know, like, oh, all of a sudden, once someone you know gets sick, then it's all follow the protocol, follow regulations, policies, and all it takes is what, 5 seconds, less than that, to put a mask on, sanitize your hands. I mean, all it takes is one drop of hand sanitizer, and you know, but people, like I said, they're careless and it's very selfish. Hopefully they learn, because we never know, or they get this across their head, because we never know when the vaccine. Ask yourself this. You got to ask yourself, when are they gonna come up with a vaccine to cure this, or will they ever find a vaccine to cure this? See, the thing is with people nowadays is we're not used to change, especially so suddenly, and having to wear a mask. For example, having to wear a mask is people. That's a drastic change, and it's like, what? Like, I'm not wearing a mask, and I understand that us as humans are not prepared for sudden change like that. And but if it's helping save your loved ones, your neighbors around you, just throw a mask on, dude. Just throw a mask on.
I read, somebody showed me something that they had shared previously
Yeah.
about comparing wearing a mask to using a condom. And I thought it was hilarious. Because
Yeah.
I was like, this is the kind of humor I needed to see. But it's essentially that, like, why do we have so many, I guess for lack of a better way of saying it, fatherless children or parentless children?
Mm-hmm.
Because of selfishness. It's
Mhm.
because of that moment of selfishness that you could have done something preventative, yet you chose not to.
Exactly. Yes.
You chose not to do this one thing that is in wholeheartedly, it is your responsibility to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Not just for others, but for yourself.
Yeah.
But when it comes to selfishness, you don't even think about yourself. You don't think about others. You think about the moment. You think about that one. But I really appreciate this person for sharing that with me, because I just thought to myself, like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. Like, that one moment of selfishness led to creating another life, yet that one child that, again, parentless child.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, I'm not saying, like, children who are parentless are going to be a menace to society. No, of course not. But when they're pinpointed, or statistically speaking, those people that are going to end up in jail or going to be rapists or whatever it might be, right? Statistically speaking, you have to not hold that person accountable, but hold the person who was the person held accountable, who did not take that responsibility, right? And it's whether they wore a condom or they wore a damn mask. Be preventative. Be preventative. The goal is be preventative, because you're not just helping yourself out, you're going to help everyone around you.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. A virus like this, it doesn't take one person ending it. It takes a whole community coming together and saying, hey, we're going to beat this, and this is how we're going to do it. Right? It's not just saying, hey, you over there, you wear your mask while I'm over here not wearing my mask or just staying home. No, it's going to be, even within my home, as people come, clean, sanitize, do the things that we have to do that we also maybe not have done always in our lives, but do them now, because now is the moment of crisis. Now is the moment where we actually have to be wanting to be doing this, because there is something out there that's coming in, not to get us, right? Because we're not going to be so harsh and scary, but in reality, it's affecting us more than we kind of wish to admit sometimes.
Yeah, and I remember that term, they say, it's better safe than sorry. You know, and these times, that phrase there, it really it states a fact. You know, yeah, exactly. You got to be safe than sorry. You know, and you know, it's like how you're saying. A lot of people, I think it's sad that you can stand next to someone in line, and you can be wearing a mask, and the guy behind you is not wearing a mask. See, another thing too is I've had this conversation with one of our providers as well about wearing a mask, and to tell you the truth, it's bad to wear a mask. You're breathing in all that carbon dioxide, and it's bad for you. And the thing is, I feel like there should be something being created to help us out from that situation as well, from breathing in carbon dioxide. Because a mask, like they say, if a person in front of you is talking to you and he or she does not have a mask, and you're speaking to the person, and a droplet of saliva falls on top of your mask, you're breathing that in. So either way, we're screwed, right?
We're exposed.
Yeah, we're exposed to it. And the thing is too is maybe letting people know, like, okay, we may not find a vaccine as soon as we expected, but we have a whole other group working on something for like a face covering that is well protected, both respiratory and being exposed by droplets and stuff. See, and another thing too, I was reading upon an article, and it was saying a lot of people disagreed about about this being airborne, okay? And I learned this back in school in when I was going to school to become an MA, right? And our professor, the teacher, was talking to us, and he was talking about airborne droplets and just stuff like that can affect you. And as soon as this came out and they said this is a respiratory disease, this is something that can affect your lungs, stuff like that, I automatically knew, like, eventually this is gonna be airborne. And everyone I spoke to about this are like, it can be airborne, this and that. But I was like, yeah, I feel like everything's airborne. As soon as a droplet, I'm speaking now, as soon as a droplet hits the ground, once I turn the fan on, that droplet becomes airborne, because it can get caught on any dust, any little particle raised up in the air, and whoever comes in and breathes that particle is exposed, because that droplet landed on, yeah. So, and it's crazy, man. It's crazy, but
yeah, it is. The reality is, when it comes to like COVID-19, it lasts on surfaces for 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah,
maybe even more.
maybe
less,
more. Yeah.
The fact that it stays on the surface for X amount of time, and without any kind of disinfectant,
Mm-hmm.
like, this is where washing your hands plays a key role into preventative measures. This is where wearing that face mask gives you enough time to get from the ending of the cash register to your car to take your mask off.
Yeah.
And now you've applied your hand sanitizer, or you've done X amount, Y and Z to X equals
Yeah.
the deterioration of that virus.
Yeah.
Or the deterioration of that whatever we might see or deem antibacterial, because that's essentially why we're putting on the hand sanitizer in the first place. And I hear you, like, wearing a mask is not 100%.
Yeah.
But neither is using hand sanitizer.
Yeah, it's 99.99%. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So let's have that conversation too.
Yes,
like,
yes.
This is what the post was about. Like, wearing a condom is not 100% effective. Like, just because you fucking use a condom, sorry, excuse my language. Just because you don't use a condom doesn't mean it's not gonna mean you're not gonna get pregnant. Like, there is folks who get pregnant after using a condom.
Yeah.
Same with folks who get STDs and STIs. They still get them because condoms never were said to be 100% effective.
Yeah.
Neither was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
But it is effective. It is effective when it comes to preventative measures. Because
Yes.
even the fact that you know you used it, you feel better about it. It releases hormones in your body that say, I feel better about myself for having done this.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the HELP syndrome.
Yeah.
The HELP syndrome in itself is this reproductive oxytocin that your brain develops. Your brain creates this feel-good response when you did something that quote-unquote was good.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was using a condom, or wearing a mask, or simply helping someone else in the street. Like, when you give up to charity, or you do things to help other folks that actually are selfless. What's it called? Selfless acts that are done for others that have nothing to do with you, but actually produce oxytocin within your brain that make you feel good.
Yeah.
And wholeheartedly feel good, because that's what that response does.
Yeah.
So, like, on top of the fact that you're killing 99% of germs that are coming in, that you're being exposed to, you're also creating something within your own bodily system that's going to help you feel better. Oxytocin heals our wounds, heals our past, heals our healing. And the more we produce that, the more we're going to be able to heal ourselves. And when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. So, yeah, maybe masks are not the best thing to do. It's not the most effective thing to do. Like, going to a gym and wearing a mask, that's not healthy at all. You're saying, like, there's so much CO2 that you're holding into your own little gateway of airways. That's not healthy. But what's also not healthy
is not wearing one.
Coronavirus.
Yeah.
And so being exposed to coronavirus is also not gonna, like, be your best friend. So
yeah.
It's kind of like the less of worse evils, but let's not look at it that way. We learn from the story of what we focus on. If we focus on the fact that we're withholding 99% of the germs that are out there, then I'd rather do that than expose people
Expose
or
others.
expose myself.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, if I expose myself, it's one thing, but now that I have COVID-19, now I can't see my friends.
Exactly.
Right? Again, going back to that oxytocin. When I see my friends and my loved ones, oxytocin is being produced, and I like that feeling. So I'm not going to have that anymore. Now I can't see people that actually had things to do with. Like, I made plans to go do this, I made plans to go do that. Now I can't do those things because of this. Or, hey, you know what? At the very, the harsh thing of the reality of this is that, like, people die. And it's so beautiful to be at somebody's funeral, a loved one's funeral, and be there in that moment to wish them well in the next adventure, next life. Right now, we live in a reality where people can't even go do that.
Yeah.
Right? That oxytocin that we're talking about, like, you don't have the ability to heal now.
Yeah.
You don't have that oxytocin producing within your own body to say, you know what I'm doing is right, what I'm doing is good, or what I'm doing is going to help me in the future.
Yeah.
Like, that's not happening for folks right now, and I think that's when, again, looking back into that little 99%, I get that there's 1%, 0.1001% that's not going to be effective, but, like, on the contrary, it's also unlivable.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to live with the reality of having not been able to see your loved one due to this virus. You're going to hate this virus for the rest of forever.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be your trauma. And trauma it's an open wound in your brain. Like, that's blood coming out of your brain, and you cannot repair that so easily with a bandage.
Exactly. Yeah, and how you're talking about funerals, it's sad. You know, you can't have any gatherings larger than 10, and you can't be anywhere near 6 feet within. You got to be 6 feet apart, and it's sad for the people that have passed on and due to COVID, or even not even due, just who passed on in general in these times, because they ain't getting the proper service. You know, they ain't getting all the people around that loved them or hung out, had memories with, because you know, just because of the gatherings and stuff. And we, with that being said, we have to like you said, we got to prevent it as much as how we're speaking about. We got to prevent it as much as we can, because we don't know who we're gonna affect, when we're gonna affect. And say say something happens to a loved one, or a friend, or someone that you got to know, and you can't give them the proper burial because of that. It's sad. Like, I don't know what happens in the afterlife. I don't know. I do have the belief. I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe in reincarnation. I know others believe in your spirit goes to God and you live an eternal life in the heavens. If that's what you believe, you know, that's your belief, and I support you on that. But who knows what happens? So we gotta protect not ourselves, but our own. And when I say our own, is friends, family, loved ones, just the neighbors, your neighbor, anyone. Because we want to give them a proper life. We all want to. Go ahead.
No, I was saying we want to give them what their wishes are. We want to respect their wishes.
Exactly.
Like I know folks that want to be with their loved ones, but they can't because their loved ones passed away from COVID-19, and now they're not allowed to be, or they're not allowed to be in the hospital.
Yeah.
During those last few hours. And then even just last few hours, like last few days.
It's not the same.
Dying is like a process. You don't just die. Well, some of us do. Some of us will die just within instances. Some of us, there's so many. There's a spectrum of ways to die, right? When it comes to COVID-19, it's such an isolating way to die. It's so isolating. You're forced to be on your own because the risk of this is contracting someone else, exposing someone else to this virus, and now them having to be alone for a 2-week period. It takes, if I'm not mistaken, 2 times the amount of a habit than what it took to reproduce a habit.
Mm.
So to produce a habit, let's say it takes a week.
Yeah.
If it takes 2 times that
Takes
to break the habit, it's going to take 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
To
Yeah.
break the habit.
Uh-huh.
And we're talking minuscule virus, bacterial infections. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking like needing somebody, physically needing somebody next to you. And now, in the last days of their life, you never were able to be around them. You were forbidden. You were prohibited. Hospitals didn't let you in. Loved ones themselves kept themselves from you. And now you have the reality of, like, you can never see this person again.
Yeah.
And now you also are not able to be at their funeral. Like, that systematically does something to your brain. And it doesn't, for lack of a better phrase, it fucks you up. But on top of that, again, that oxytocin that we're talking about, that healing part of our brain, that part of our brain that produces within our body and helps us heal traumatic events, the bandage to the wound that we have flowing within our body, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen at all. And so, aside from the fact that we're just going to talk about COVID-19, now let's talk about diseases. How do diseases form? Diseases like diabetes.
See,
like,
it's well, it's hard to say. It just depends on the disease you're speaking about. Or just, for example, diabetes. If you have a parent, if you have a parent, it can be your mom, it can be your dad. If one of them has diabetes, it's in your blood, it's in the genes, and it's sad. And like me, I have to take good care of myself, and it just depends. It depends how we really watch over ourselves. That's the time to become self-concerned about what you're doing, what you're taking in, what are you feeding your body, what and like I know a lot of people. We want to party, we want to feast, and it feels good at that time, during the time of feasting or partying. But
the long term, though,
the long term effect is you're at the same time, your time frame is, instead of expanding, is shortening, and it's hard. For example, like any other disease, or it can be a STD, for example, like AIDS, HIV. If
that small window of excitement and not using that preventative measure,
exactly,
had that long lasting term effect of developing something like AIDS.
So that's when you whenever you want to become selfish and care about yourself, this is the time to do it. Like, you don't want to.
Like, you be selfish in the right way.
exactly. And that's the thing. Depending on the disease, for example, if diabetes runs in your family, you already have the knowledge. You already see what happens to people who are diabetic. Some may not produce insulin, and that's harder. You starting to inject yourself with insulin, watching your taking your glucose levels, and at the same time you're hurting within, and you're hurting while you're hurting within by injecting yourself with these medications. And at the same time, if you're taking metformin, for example, if you're diabetic, all those pills and the pills that you're taking in and stuff, it's affecting your body. It may be helping you now, but it's affecting your body. How about instead of taking medications to cure, or not to cure, but help treat diabetes, take them for a short term. But at the same time, you diet, eat what you're supposed to eat, don't, and that, I bet you can slowly decrease the medication you're taking in, because at the same time you may feel good when your blood pressure or your glucose levels are meeting the level. Once they're meeting the level and you're using those medications, you're like, oh man, like, I'm gonna keep doing it because it works, right? But how about, yeah, I take those, but at the same time work on your diet. Because if you're like I said, if you're worrying about your diet, taking in what you're supposed to be taking in, that at the same time is going to make you feel good, and that's going to push away the medications that you're needing to take. It starts decreasing the milligrams, everything that you're asked to take by the doctor. So, like I said, for people who are diabetic or know that have a chance of being diabetic in their times, because due to parents or past family members, take a close look at yourself, and take a close look at what you're taking in or feeding yourself. Okay, and I bet you can live a longer life, no worries about ever getting cut, and your body not being able to heal itself because you're careless, and you're just, you're not caring about yourself. This can be anything, man, like diabetes, like how I said, STD, how you're saying STDs, STIs, anything like that, man. Like, you gotta take the proper measures and realize think twice before you act. You gotta think twice. I know sometimes you're like, screw it, let's do it. Let's go. let's go party. But I mean, that's just
say, like, there's a moment for a fuck it moment.
Yeah,
but like, choose wisely. Choose your fuck it moment very wisely, because
exactly.
I mean, like, it's very natural for us as humans to think about the now versus think about the future.
Yeah.
But like, understand that your anxiety is gonna help you think about the future and do preventative measures to focus on that future. Whereas your scare, your fear in that moment, that you're feeling, that scaredness, listen to it.
Yeah.
Listen to that moment of your heart telling you, should I be doing this, should I not be doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Listen to that internalized gut feeling that you have of, do I want to move forward with this, do I not want to move forward with this? Or simply listen to the pain in your head, the voice in your head saying, alarm, alarm, alarm. Is this something that I want to do, or is this something that I shouldn't be doing? Well, I find myself running into a store and running right back out, because I'm a very rushed person. I like to do super quick and get in, get out, because I'm always the late one. That's just me, right? But when I go into the store and I realize that there's been a sign that says wear a mask, mask required, I'm gonna run back to my car and put on my mask.
Mm-hmm.
On top of the fact that maybe I won't even be allowed into the store without the mask. Like, I don't have to get to that point.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to get to the point where somebody asks me, hey, you need to have a mask to come into this place. No, like, yes, I need that nudge of a reminder to tell me, hey, wear your mask, because I'm a very forgetful person.
Yeah. I mean, we're human. We forget things.
But also, like, there's a whole other level of why I'm putting on the mask in the first place, right? My prefrontal cortex has helped me understand and assess the risks that I'm taking upon myself when I'm going into the store without a mask.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that the faceless person of the image that I saw on the door, or the sliding door to go into the store. It was the reality, the check that I had with myself to say, you know what, I care about my health. And yeah, I can go into the store without a mask, and somebody's going to try to fight me and be like, why are you not wearing a mask?
Okay.
Or I can prioritize my health and say, you know what, on top of the fact that I'm going to go into the store, I don't know who's been in the store, I don't know what's been in the store, I'm going to at least come out my whole self.
Yeah. And
that whole self is going to be with somebody with a mask.
Also, how you were talking about the prefrontal cortex, the front of your brain where memory and all that comes from.
Decision making. No,
yes.
Actually, memory is in the center part of your brain.
The center?
Like, the center. This is like your brain, right?
Yeah.
This is like your stem brain.
Okay.
This is your center part of your brain. This is your prefrontal cortex.
Okay, so
remodel.
Also use like we're gonna get into the anatomy of the brain right now. So you can also use your occipital part of the brain. That's the back part of the brain where sight comes from. Use that. You use that. If you see everyone in the store that you're in all have a mask and you're the one that doesn't have a mask, come on, common sense. Use your sight as well. But yeah, I just had to throw that one in.
Yeah, it's the common sense part of us, right?
Yeah.
The common sense of like understanding why we don't have slaves today, right? It's the part of us that understands why we don't have why we have restrooms in the first place. Like why we have public restrooms in the first place is because we have common sense in the world.
Exactly.
We have common sense enough to say like people are gonna have bowel movements and they have to go and process that bowel movement. But like at bars and restaurants, are we talking about our bowel movements? Is that what we do when we go out to these public places where they have these public places to go and process your bowel movements? No, we don't do that because it's common sense. It's part of our humane. It's part of what we do as humans. We go and we do this. But I think the more we have the conversation about it, the more we learn about it. But also we learn that, like, legit, every single person's bowel movement is different. Like, your bowel movement is different than my bowel movement. And that's going to acquire different types of behaviors in terms of the both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the way you use the restroom is very different than the way I use the restroom. And of course, we don't eat the same things. How could they do the same?
Mm-hmm.
As the same as we were brought up, we were still brought up differently.
Exactly.
For our bodies to develop differently.
Yeah.
For our bodies to know differently. We might have been exposed to diabetes from our hereditary sense. But the way we take care of each other today is going to look very differently. Based on what we've lived through, what we've gone through, the things in our lives that have affected us the way it has internally. And so, like, although you might use a condom for a different reason, I'm going to use a condom for a very different reason. The reason you wear your mask might be because you're trying to help and save your family, and your immediate family. Whereas, like me, I'm trying to save a mask not just to help your family, but like our whole family in general, right? Like where I don't have a child that I'm looking after and why I'm going to wear my mask at the store. But I have so many nephews and nieces that's why I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to expose them to whatever it is I've already exposed myself to, right? And so that's going to validate a whole different reason of doing it. But on top of that, like, it's going to validate why I love myself, let alone why I love other people, right? Why I love people around me. And in the most minusculous form, why wearing a mask isn't just changing me, it's changing the culture that we live in. Because our culture's already changed. People I've heard this phrase a lot, like, this is our new normal. This is not our new normal. Like, this is what we've already lived with. This is having to learn, right? It's not just having the knowledge of face masks, that face masks exist, but now we have to use the wisdom of using them and when to use them. Right? Because obviously if we're doing a podcast virtually, I don't have to wear a face mask right now in this very essence to prove a point. No.
I was gonna ask you that. I was like, should we be wearing a mask?
No.
I'm just playing.
What I'm gonna do is Lysol my computer after this and kind of wipe it down because I've learned and that's the way I've evolved, right?
Yeah.
And it's not to say that if you don't do that, you're not right or wrong, right? There's no right or wrong of doing this.
You just never know who's going to use
There is a level of percentage or, even just percentage of, like, how safe this is and how safe this is not.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and obviously we're going to benefit. We're going to have win-win solutions when we're both practicing safety measures. Like, when we're both effectively working together and saying, hey, we could do this podcast face-to-face, but also, hey, let's do it separately because
if we could do it
in
virtually,
reality, like, right now, we are the ones at risk. People between their ages of 20 to 30 are highly being exposed to COVID-19. And why? It's because we're not staying home.
It's careless, being careless.
Carelessness and selfish.
Selfish.
And don't get me wrong, like, I can be selfish, but I think there's a level of the amount of people
There,
that I've
there,
learned to expose myself to and to not expose myself to.
There's a limit to where you can become selfish, especially during during COVID. But another thing I wanted to touch upon it was okay. So I see this all the time, and it bothers me. Like, it really, really bothers me. Is if you're walking around with the mask on, and your kid is 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, and up, and they're able to put a mask on, put a mask on. Like, you know how bad it looks to know that you have a mask on and your little one doesn't have a mask on. If you know your little one does not cope with having a mask on, leave little one at home. Like why expose them? It's sad. I know there's times where we have to take the little ones to the doctors and stuff, but you know, there's certain measures you can take. Is by, you can call in and say, hey, look, I'm checking in for, for so and so's appointment, and we're gonna stay in the car. If you can please give us a call, and we'll go in as soon as you guys are ready for us. That takes away the time for your little one to be exposed to the chances of them being exposed to COVID, or just any other sickness in general. Yeah, and it's sad. Like, I see it all the time, and I'm just like, wow, like leave them home, leave them in the car. Don't leave them in the car, but if you leave them in the car, stay with them.
No, stay with them.
Yeah,
but I hear you. You're right.
Yeah, but there's you can do things like that. And you can call in, like, hey, I'm in the car. Just let me know when you guys are ready, and we'll go in. I just don't want to. And I'm like 85% sure that the doctor's gonna respect that and be like, okay, that's fine. Like, that's good. I like that you're doing that, and you're being cautious, and you're taking precautions for not for yourself, but for your child, and the people around the child. And you never know, what if the child is carrying something himself, and exposes.
That's exactly
and that's what I'm saying. Like, we never know. It's undetected. We can't detect it. We can ask people, have you had fevers, cough, or shortness of breath, anything like that. And we never know. People can lie and say yes or no. Like, no, I've never had that. Then they'll just say that because right now, during these times, to say that you possibly have a fever, or even if you cough in public, that's like breaking the law right now. Like dude, coughing is breaking the law. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. And your sister, she pointed out on a Snapchat group, and when she posted this picture of a certain clinic or wherever she was at, I forgot where she was at, and it says, if you're wearing gloves, please don't come in, because you've touched so many things on the way over here, and you're just cross-contaminating things. And I was like, dude, like these people don't realize that, and that's selfish act because they care about themselves. Yes. but yeah, that.
The funny, the ironic, I don't know what the right word to use here, but the interesting thing about the whole thing is that as humans, it's almost inevitable for us to go, even 2 hours without touching our face.
Dude, I work
even if you wore your gloves for 30 minutes, the chances of you having touched your face within those 30 minutes are far more greater.
Yes.
And you increase your own likelihood of contracting this virus that we're trying to not catch.
Yeah.
Or not be exposed to. But the lack of common sense that comes with that, I think it's so profound, and it's why I like that we had our conversation last time about knowledge versus intelligence.
Yeah. So let me put this in here. Let me ask you a question and answer this.
Yeah.
What if you go to the restroom, what do you think is the dirtiest spot in that restroom?
The bacteria on my penis.
No.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No.
No, but
so
if you were legit asking me what would be the dirtiest spot of a restroom, if not the toilet seat, I would say the fountain that you use to wash your hands.
you want to? We did. I did this research with a couple of coworkers, and we found out. Crazy to say, and now that I think about it, it makes so much sense. Is the dirtiest spot in a restroom, at a public restroom, because we hardly ever have these in our home restroom, is the push on the hand soap, the push button where, dude, you know how many times you push on that, and you wash your hands. Once you're done washing your hands, you don't clean that off. You just take off. What about the guy that used it before you, or the girl that used it before you? You're just like, that never gets clean. And then I was like, wow.
Or they wash their hands with like the 2 seconds of water that runs through.
Yeah.
Instead of putting the hands back in.
And let me ask you this, or not ask, but let me put this in that situation as well. The lady or the person or the guy who has had gloves on since he walked out of his home, used the restroom, got to a certain spot, used the public restroom, washed it. I mean, I don't think he's gonna wash his hands. He has gloves on. He's careless. Imagine all that thing. Or who knows? He might be spraying some hand sanitizers in his glove. Who knows? But still, it's gross. It's gross.
The reality of the world.
Yeah.
Again, knowledge is one thing. Intelligence and wisdom, completely something else.
This is awesome. This is common sense.
Common sense is why we don't have slaves today.
Yeah.
But you know what? We do have the highest rate. We have 25% of the world's population in jail, and that's in the United States. 25% of incarcerated folks come from the United States. And of that 25%, it's going to be folks like you and I and black folks. So, like, minorities. Are those folks inside those incarcerated. And the reason for those crimes, I mean, marijuana, come on. Like, all these bullshit crimes that... Or in the early, like, what was it, like, in the... Wow, it was like in the years after Abraham had freed the slaves. Like, what the reason why these folks were getting
80s
committing crimes, or the 70s. Crimes they were committing were the fact that they were homeless, the fact that they were loitering over businesses where they were trying to get jobs or trying to basically buy food, and these jobs specifically, or these businesses were not letting them in the first place due to the color of the skin. So again, like, it just raises the whole nother level of conversation where I'm so curious to see what these numbers are going to look like, because I know in April and late March, what we were seeing is that high rates of Latinos and minorities were being exposed to COVID-19. And to me, that's not that as surprising as I want it to seem. It's not surprising, because we've always been at the bottom of whatever chain we're talking about. Like, we're not the folks that are a place above.
I've told so many people, man, like, the people that have power, that have more power than we do, they see a piece of crap higher than us. We're below crap to them, and it's sad, man. It's sad to say, but I feel it's the truth, man. And it's sad. Yeah, it's sad to realize that. But that's how they see us minorities, but yeah.
How do we raise ourselves in that aspect? How do we uplift our? How do we humanize ourselves when we dehumanize?
Well, the thing is, with politics in general, politics, I believe, was created to separate any group, from race, from rich, from poor, uh, yeah, like minorities from the superior, and politics was created to just separate one from the other. And the thing is, we may never, feel we may feel, but we may never grow in power. But what we can do ourselves is uplift our own selves, our people, by saying, you know what, they may not see us they might see us as a nobody, but to us, as especially as the Chicanos, coming from where we're from, we have the power to be somebody, because our parents gave us the opportunity by them coming over here to the States and giving us the opportunity of freedom, liberty, and we as Chicanos, even just minorities in general, we have to take upon that situation and make something of it. And like I said, in order for us to be up there with the superior, we have to have wealth, be very, very wealthy, have a lot of power and pull, which I feel we won't ever will ever have that, because that's something they don't want us to attain, because they know we have minorities. There's just so much minorities in the States that we can take over if we want to. But the thing is, the consequences and stuff, a lot of people don't want to take. But like how you're saying,
parties have separated us so much to not only just to identify it, to recognize it, but also it's something that's so unlivable that we don't even see happening. But
yeah, exactly.
And it's sad. Like, we don't see it. We don't see us coming together because it's so far-fetched. Yeah, it's something that it requires us to come together to actually to win, right?
Well,
if we have to, like in this next election, if we don't want to see Trump win as president, then us as humans have to decide to not vote for this person. But because we're so divided, right? We're divided into a two-party system that says if you don't vote this way, it's because you're this way, or vice versa. It just diminishes the voice. It silences the voice.
Yeah,
change of the voice.
I also feel
but it's
like
doable. It's just a matter of collectiveness. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I feel like this system is made for everyone to hate everybody. It's like prison politics. If you talk to anybody who's been in prison, any African American, any white American, any Mexican, any Asian, they have this prison politics where as soon as you get locked in and start to serve your time, they tell you, pick your group, go with your people. The same thing how it is here is they're trying to find a way to keep us separated, because what they don't want is for all minorities to get together. But how you're seeing, remember how we were talking about this before about George Floyd. I mean, he passed on, and how we were talking about this last time, we were saying it was beautiful how we seen all kinds of different race come together and fight. Did you notice that when they were protesting and looting, the news pulled footage on the looting, all that destroying property, all that stuff, they filmed that till this day, there's protesting now as we speak. But the news doesn't put that on the news or take any footage of that because they don't want to see what is happening and what happens because certain actions we're taking to make things right. They don't want to put what's happening. They don't want to put the right things out there. They want to show everybody the bad stuff that's happening, which was the looting before. Now you don't see any protesting news, right? You watch 11 o'clock news, you don't see that come up at all. And that's because it's because it's not that they don't have time to go shoot a footage on that. It's because they don't want to. They don't want to show that the people are right. That's
they don't also. I had this conversation with my mom about how like when you what's the word, when you start looking at it as loitering, when you start looking at it as a sense of like destroying property,
yeah,
you reinforce this idea that black folks were property. You reinforce this idea that that's what they were to us. They were just a commodity, because that's what built America. These black folks as slaves is what built America. The fact that white men were able to have time to create a constitution while they had families and they had people to look over and look after, I'm sorry, but that was only happening because you had that time. That was a luxury that you had.
Yeah.
And it was on the backs of black folks. So on the backs of them, on the backs of their existence. So now that we see this as like folks destroying targets or starts destroying computers, CDs, etc. These products, these commodities. We have to recognize that that's how we see black folks, right? That's how we see Latinos, right? In the 1940s or the 1950s, when we had this Braceros program, this program that brought Mexicans from Mexico into the northern parts of the Americas.
I was about to bring that up.
That's the part that they've never been exposed to. That's using their backs as a commodity.
Yeah. Because
that brought labor into what already was a labor system,
so
a capitalistic society. So we have to learn how to humanize the human, and in reality dehumanize the product, because we're humanizing the product more than what we are the human. We're humanizing the company more than we are the actual human. When we humanize, or when we look at loitering as being something like destroying something like Target, we have to recognize how we're actually saying that we value Target and the owners of Target more than the human lives that have been lost to police brutality.
Yeah.
But we have to learn to shift that in such a way that's going to be a constructive conversation. To just say that, like, if we don't value loitering, but we also don't value the diminishing of human lives. Like, I'd much rather see a Target burn in hell than seeing my fellow brothers and sisters die out of hell, which is what we're seeing.
And see, so how you're saying that when Mexicans were brought over, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I may be off, but I think it's 1984 when they brought Mexicans over. It was before that, but they brought Mexicans over to work their agriculture, right? Pick their produce.
Yeah.
And when they did that in 1984, I believe, if your parents were here in the States, they got citizenship. Correct. I believe it was during those times. See,
and you had to be here for X amount of time, and
you had to be a worker, correct?
Hours of labor.
Yes, exactly. And see, the thing is, they've used so many people, all kinds of different race. They've used African Americans. They've used Mexicans. And the thing is, at the time, for them, it felt like it was right to bring the Mexicans over, and then say, okay, so whoever wasn't here for so much amount of time, go back. No, then that's when Mexicans started getting smarter and having children here, creating us Chicanos, and so the government found a way to try to beat, try to crumble our people. And the way they did it with African Americans, what they did was they purposely flooded their communities with crack cocaine. And a lot of people say it.
And criminalized
Yes,
crack cocaine.
yeah, like
So on top of the fact that they flooded crack cocaine into these communities, they criminalized it, making these folks being the target. The criminal target.
Exactly. And so that was the way for them to get rid of African Americans, break down their communities, make them hate themselves. Same way with us. They started figuring out ways, created ICE to come take
Marijuana.
yeah, they started taking.
They criminalized marijuana.
Exactly.
They criminalized something that was helping us economically flourish, and they criminalized it.
And they used that advantage to
behind bars.
It was a frame. It was a whole frame. A frame on both sides of the minority groups.
So you have a surplus of a system where you have like police officers, folks who are led by white folks, right? Like the majority of police chiefs officers are white. They have power over folks like what we were seeing as like drug lords or gang leaders or folks who were really just trying to get their family out of poverty. You criminalize the person. But when you have a rooted system of this continuously rooted oppression, right, coming back into terms of like what we're looking at today, who are those folks who have higher diabetes, who have lower rates of poverty, higher rates of poverty, or are folks who battle with drug and substance abuse? It's us. And it's not us because we chose it to be this way.
It was given to us.
What was that?
It was handed to us. It was put in our palms. And
it was I love that I know this part of our history, that this part of our history had been stripped from us. Because had it happened the way naturally it was meant to happen, Europeans would have stayed in Europe. Native American folk, with their gold and their luxury commodity goods that they've already had, they had a healthiest form of trade that we don't have and we don't see in this world today.
Yeah.
Like trade is, you give me your beanie and I'll give you my headphones because I need a beanie for my haircut and our headphones are just gonna work simultaneously together.
Yeah.
Like that again, this idea of trade is you have to give me something better for me to do something else that you're gonna give me. Like money, I worked for this amount of money. This was my labor that I put into this money, and now I'm gonna go buy this phone that was a cheap buy over here or over there.
Exactly.
Like,
They
one way of looking at it, but in the way of colonialism, like it wasn't just gold that was being taken away. It was land. It was gold. It was women and children that were being raped and murdered.
Yeah.
It was our gang leaders, our fathers, our male patriarch that was completely taken away. So what are we left with? Striving women trying to raise families on their own, and children trying to figure out how to be a man without that male figure in their role, in their home, even in their neighborhoods. Because like you go into this gang not because of status, but for survival. You go into this gang for brotherhood, something that you haven't had in your whole life, and that is academically proven.
Yeah.
People don't join gangs to make $10. People join gangs because they lack something within their own hearts, right? That oxytocin we were talking about earlier.
See,
Due to that oxytocin is going to lead you to, or lack of that oxytocin is going to lead you to pick your gang leader over your deadbeat father. So your deadbeat father might teach you how to use drugs or whatever it might be, but your gang leader is going to teach you how to sell them and profit out of it.
Yeah.
Which are you going to value more? What's going to take your family more successful? Yeah, your mom's not going to know how you're paying the bills, where you're getting the money from to pay the bills, but you're going to get the satisfaction out of paying these bills and making sure your mom wasn't stressing over those things. Like, we do things out of survival, and when you do it in such a way, you can't blame the folk for having learned their own system of oppression.
And
like,
see,
I learned how to get my way out of above.
Yeah,
and I keep over.
No, and the thing is, we didn't do that to ourselves. They chose us to do that. They made us follow that road, and now they're paying for it, and they don't like it, so they're still trying to figure out ways to break us all down, make the minority groups fight against each other, and remember that movie Blood In, Blood Out? Remember Blood In, Blood Out?
It worked.
remember what the shot caller says? He says, Chicanos killing Chicanos is what they want. Chicanos and blacks killing each other is what they want. But
that's what they want.
Exactly, and the way they put it in that movie, it's real life, bro. Like, it's real life, and now they're paying the price for it, because we're finding ways through this system, and there ain't nothing they can do about it, because we're 2-3 steps ahead of them from their own game.
My mom once told me that she didn't like the idea that we were saying Black Lives Matter because all lives matter.
Yeah.
And I remember just telling her, but you have to understand that
this is their fight.
All lives matter, we have to uplift Black lives.
Yes. So yeah, like how you're saying,
as much as we say all lives matter, that's not what's happening. That's not the reality that we're living. And so we have to bring attention to what's actually happening. That with our whole system of government, from our last 400 years of being oppressed as human Americans, we have not valued the lives that actually have brought us to the liberties that we have today. And that is why we say Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
That is why we have to identify this reality of a world of oppression, because without recognizing that, we're not going to be able to recognize that women's lives have not mattered. We're not going to be able to recognize that LGBTQ rights haven't mattered.
Yeah.
We're not even going to recognize that our own Chicano history has never mattered in these states of what we call America.
Yeah.
Because we cannot come together and say, actually, you're right, Black lives do matter.
Yeah. And another thing too, see what's happening is when people say, or when we're saying Black Lives Matter, we're helping them fight their fight. If we say us as Chicanos, then and the system, the government hates when we say Chicanos. They hate it. As soon as we use that terminology, our actual terminology as a Chicano, which is a Mexican American born Mexican or a person, they hate it, and they try to label us as a gang member. But like I'm saying, if we say once we're the African Americans get what they want, after Black Lives Matter, while right after the protest is successful, I believe the Chicanos, if they bring up a protest for ICE bringing having Mexicans locked up in camps and stuff, if we start bringing that up, I have 80-95% I think there's a 95% chance that same minorities that we help are going to come in together and help us fight for our people, same way as we're helping them fight for their people, right? That's
right. Actually, I'm not going to say right. What I'm going to say is it's going to be 99.9.1.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that 0.1% that might not.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we don't try, and it doesn't mean we're not going to not be effective when we do the thing that needs to get done, right?
Yeah.
When we come together as humans, what are we going to create? Humanity.
Exactly.
If we start separating each other, we're just going to continue to dehumanize each other. If we don't wear our masks, we're going to continue to spread COVID-19.
Exactly.
Or for lack of another, wear the things that you have to wear, but also come together. Come together with that one thing that you think to yourself, no, I'm not going to do that. Try to understand it.
Okay.
Make that forward effort of saying, you know what, how can I learn to understand from this? What can I grow from this? Or learn and grow from this?
Yeah. See,
because
and how you're...
That's what is going to bring us more together.
Uh-oh. I lost you, Nano.
What you say?
Oh, I lost. Oh, okay. You kind of
Okay.
glitched. You're good. Can you repeat that again? Repeat like 15 seconds.
uh, we have to come together. If we don't come together, essentially, like, what we're doing is gonna be that negative or that 0.01%.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to be that 0.01%. That's gonna not be successful. Like, together, when we all come together, like, we'll be 99.9% effective in killing this,
Yeah.
ending this.
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to things like racism, things like homophobia, things like ableism, even like classism. We don't have to choose to be these folks.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that because we don't know anything, another way of living, that this is what we feel like we know, but we could always grow from who we are. We can always learn from the things that we've done. And going back to our I wasn't gonna say that song. Going back to our last podcast, use our intelligence to evolve into wisdom. Use that knowledge that we have to go into wisdom, because that's it's that prefrontal cortex working, and that's us. Like, you can't take that away from us.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's not what I said, but I said something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and another thing too, guys, I know we kind of bounce from COVID diseases to politics and protesting and Mexican movement, Chicano movement, African American movement, minority movement, and you guys may think it doesn't fall in the categories that we said the topics were gonna be, but it actually does. This is a disease that we're being affected by, you know, and yeah, this is a disease, man. So I know me and I don't feel that this is a disease to us because we live it, and we know people that experience it and are being hurt by it, and it just doesn't hurt their feelings. It hurts their personalities, their human traits, it just affects them, and I believe this still falls in the categories of disease. So it's
full on, but racism is a disease.
Yeah, it's
completely
exact.
Racism
Yeah,
is a disease in our society, and as cliche as it may sound, love is a cure to that. But it doesn't take loving someone else, it takes loving yourself.
Yeah.
Like, loving your struggle, loving what you've been through, loving your own insecurities, loving the things that you see about yourself that you don't see in the media, loving the things that you see within yourself that you don't see replicated in the other worlds and other dynamics. Like, that is going to separate you from those things and make you more wholeheartedly beautiful, make you more unique, and in spreading that love that you have for yourself, it's gonna be the cure to the disease that we see in the world that we live in today. Because it's curable. Like, just because we haven't learned our lesson 400 years later, like, the world has changed. We don't have slavery like we had slavery back then. We have modern day slavery. We have a reality of slavery that we don't wish to acknowledge, like human trafficking, criminalizing of folks that are minorities. But we have to understand that we've changed. We've evolved into this other system, and that system is still attacking us. It's still the same very system with the roots of what our democracy started from when over 250 years ago. That same democracy still exists today. It's just evolved, and now again we don't have slaves, but we have criminals who are the same folks that were that. Right, and we have the abolishment of beating folks, but yet we still have human trafficking in the world. We live in California, where we're the number one buyer state. We're the number one state that buys people in terms of human trafficking.
Well,
so let's have that conversation. We still so that.
Just California itself is just bad in all criminal cases, from human trafficking, from drug trafficking, everything, and it's sad to say, because it's a place where we come from and we represent, and it's sad because, like I was saying, and I think there's an article saying that I had read saying that California is the number one state of all criminal cases, like I was saying, from drug trafficking, human trafficking, to child molestation, all that, and it's sad, dude. It's disgusting. Like it's sad, and
And I think the thing that makes it more sad is that in our reality,
we
right,
don't
in
see
America, we see these real criminals as minorities, right? We think that the rapist is going to be the Mexican or the black folk. We think that the person buying these humans or selling these drugs are that black folk. But let me just tell you that pharmaceutical companies sell the most drugs out of all drugs sold. And white men, specifically straight white men, buy more humans than any other species in our nation.
Hey, look at Jeffrey Epstein.
That's where
Have
we
you
can have those conversations more effectively. We can shift the conversation and acknowledge that it's not that protesters are being violent. It's that police brutality is the issue that we're having.
yeah, and
Right? Because we learn from what happens within us.
and if you see, have you seen that Netflix documentary on Jeffrey Epstein's island?
No.
No, yeah, this dude. Well, I've heard of. I was talking to one of my providers, and he told me all this before this even came out on Netflix. And Denise was actually watching it, and I was like, "Is that Epstein's Island?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then I told her everything that's gonna happen on that documentary, and she's like, "Dude, like, how'd you know that?" I'm like, "Cause the provider that I work for, he explained this to me, and dude, he had his own island, dude. That thing looked like amazing, like the place you wanted to be. But these guys worship the devil. They sacrificed little teenage girls. They rape, the human trafficking, and it's crazy because there's a lot of it wasn't just Epstein himself. There was a lot of people in the government now that they're cracking down on because of this documentary. And it's crazy. At the end of the documentary, it says that we're gonna crack down on everyone that was a part of this, one by one. And it's crazy, dude. Like, you have to watch it, and it's crazy because these guys are, and like how you're saying, it's the white man, the government, the higher ups, they have all this money, and they start buying islands, buying teenage girls and having them as sex. It's sad, dude. And it was funny that you said that, because when Denise was watching that just brought all that back, and I was like, dude, it's true. Like, and it's just disgusting people in the world, man. And
it is, but yet the media portrays it like we are the bad people.
Exactly,
like,
yeah. And
that I'm not saying that Chicanos, Hispanics, black folks don't commit crimes. That's not what I'm saying. But
I mean, we're all human. We're not perfect.
Let's bring true to what is actually happening here. You don't see black folks shooting up schools due to mental illnesses. That's white people's problem. Yet white people put that problem as if it was our problem to begin with. As if it was us the ones doing it to our own selves, when it's what we've been taught. When you, as the power holder, have influenced violence onto a community, how do you expect that community to respond?
Yeah.
In a non-violent form? Or do you expect them to learn from... So it's a matter of common sense, right? Common sense tells you to wear your mask. Common sense tells you to use a condom. Common sense tells you that we don't dehumanize people by making them slaves or criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Yet within our own constitution, our own Bill of Rights, that's what we have. Those are our fundamental rights. You're not a slave as long as you're a criminal. If you're a criminal, then you lost all your freedom, which is complete bullshit, because when you have 25% of the prison population coming from the United States, that's 25% of the United States that is not able to vote. That's 25% of the United States that is not able to work. That's 25% of the United States that either way they're working, it's not taxable income. Because who's paying for their meals? Who's paying for their restorative cells that are actually far less than a fucking dumpster? Like these cells are not lively homes that we're talking about.
Let me bring something up.
Like this apartment here, they're withered. And a person who lives there is not going to feel humanized. They're going to feel like, quote unquote, a criminal. We have to change that system.
Yeah. Let me bring this. Let me bring this up. We were talking about or you were saying about how 25% of the people are minorities and that are locked up, right? And
25% of the world's population that is incarcerated comes from the United States.
Oh, comes from the United States.
Of that 25%, it's gonna be higher rates of Latino, Black,
minority group,
Black folk.
Yeah.
Minority groups. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Remember how I was telling you about how the black community was given crack cocaine and was used to break down their community? And think about this. Remember how you said about marijuana being Latino human trafficking, Latino drug trafficking? That's the way they made a living.
Criminalized us.
Yeah, exactly. They criminalized us by giving us all this, and at the same time, basically, they gave us this.
Creating laws against it.
Yeah, and think about it though. Marijuana is legal in California. Look at all the people that are still locked in cages for having a gram or a pound or an ounce of marijuana on them, and they're still doing like 13, 12, 15 years in prison because of it. But now that it's legalized, they're still stuck in that system. See, so that right there just points that was given to them so that they can screw themselves over, like how the power gave the black community crack cocaine to screw their community over. Same way they did with marijuana. Now, after they got so many people locked up in cages doing time in prison, now they want to legalize everything, and they're still stuck because they're facing time. They're serving their sentences because at the time it wasn't legal. Now it is, and they're still stuck. It's like how you're saying they were. It's crazy, man. Like they're finding ways to try to get rid of us. But yeah, it's. Hold on. I thought I heard something. But yeah, so.
No, but yeah, you're right. Like, there's the system. I always believe that, like, there's power to the people. Like, we have the ability to unite, to mobilize together, and to stand solid in something that we wholeheartedly believe in. I mean, that's why we have a Bill of Rights that has been changed multiple times. But I talked about this last time. Like, James Madison wrote that we were supposed to change the Constitution as the Constitution that of the people that it's going to serve changes. As that community, that population changed, we didn't see our Constitution change, right? We never saw our Constitution say white men and white women.
It said men.
It never changed. It's to this day, it still says men. Men, yeah. And that men, I have to admit, it's not you and I.
Yeah.
When that word was written, they didn't take us into consideration.
It was...
But that's because they didn't have an ability to. But now, we've learned that in all of the United States wars, 10% of the folks that were in that war defended defending the United States Constitution were Latinos.
Yeah.
That's power for us. That's good recognition for us to understand that, like, we didn't just show up out of nowhere. Like, we've always been here. We've always been present. So now let's continue to be present. Let's do that in such a more unifying way, right? Because it's not just going to be males coming together and ending this patriarchy. No, like, men, women of all nationalities have to come together so that we can end this patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of patriarchy that has genuinely fucked us all over, left and right, but for lack of a better phrase, genuinely has shifted the way we see the systems of government today. Because in the system of government that we see today, our executive branch is not there for us. Our judicial branch has already steered us wrong, right? With an inability of a healthy, educated branch, and our missing one more form of government. Judicial, executive, and legislative. Our legislative branch is the spur of minorities against who knows a surplus of white folk, of white men specifically. So like we have to together come together to balance that out completely, because the three forms of government were that in itself, a check of balances. Right, where no form of government had more power than the other. We don't see that today. When you have a president who is spewing racist and derogatory language via Twitter, that's going to influence their party. It's going to influence the people that support this individual. And when you don't have that same collectiveness, right? You don't have the same luxuries and the same prosperities as a white folk. You as a minority are not going to be able to have enough representation in your own house. And then we're talking about our legislative branch. We're not going to have enough representation of Chicanos and Latinos, minorities in general, to use our perspectives and our voices collectively. Because like you said, our political system has already divided us. But we can be mindful of it, right? We can use that as knowledge and evolve into a wisdom. And that's why I say, like, I get that you don't like to vote. Maybe you don't believe in voting. Maybe that's not you specifically, but like some folks that believe that. Like, shift that perspective, grow from that perspective, because it does matter. Because there's number and power. There's power in numbers. But the more we recognize there's more of us and there are of them. Like, there's more bigoted people. There's less bigoted people than there are people that have been educated. Or when we recognize that, like, there's more white rapists than there are black and Latino rapists, or when we recognize that women have a lot more influence in our society than men do, like, when we start making these drastic changes, these judgments, thoughts that we have, when we shift that, then we're going to shift into a conversation that's going to have so much more power. Mm-hmm. It's going to have so much more forward thinking than current thought, right? Like, forward thinking is going to shift us from this present that we have today. But the separation of power that we see is going to keep us into another 4 years of well, it's not even going to be what we live through, because we're living through this now. Let's see what these next 4 years will look like.
Yeah.
But we can do it now in such a way that's going to be so much more profound. Like, we can unite together today versus tomorrow.
Exactly.
Because tomorrow's going to come more quickly than we know.
And the thing is, you never know if there is going to be a tomorrow. So that's why the voice now is, especially we have voice now, the children who are coming up after us is where the mindset's going to be at. So if we teach the little ones about what's going on, what's been happening, all the oppression, and we expand their mind to like a revolutionary thought, then basically that's where the future is at. It's in the kids. That's where the future is at, in the kids. I mean, we can still, as long as we're living, we can fight with them. We can put in our knowledge, our wisdom, our experiences, and show them that, hey, you guys are the ones who figure out what your future is gonna be and what you're gonna become in the future. Don't let them tell you what you're gonna be, because we were giving freedom of speech, and we weren't given that, or we didn't ask. They gave it to us. So now, here we go again. You gave us something, and we made something out of it, and now you guys are screwed. And that's why we gotta practice that amendment and use freedom of speech. And so,
and come together,
exactly.
right? Although our founding fathers may have wrote "we the people," like, we have to understand that we have the right to reclaim that word "people." People doesn't mean white male or property owning males or tax paying people.
It's
People
the human
means
race.
people. People means humans, and we can deconstruct that word so much more to identify each and every single one of us, right? Whether we're hurting or whether not hurting, whether we have COVID-19 or don't have COVID-19. Like, there's a, I think, article that I was reading, something about like more than a 90% rate of people who are beating this virus within their own immune system. So this isn't something that necessarily is going to abolish our humanity, but we still have to stick together in order to beat this, right? Because when it comes to disease, we learn that there's a power in mass and numbers, and that's what it's about. This would not be a pandemic if it wasn't so many people affected by the one same thing, right? This virus. That's what makes it a pandemic. The fact that all of us together are affected by this, right?
It's not just
That's
one section. It's the whole world.
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead.
That's I think the most humble thing about this pandemic that we're going through is that when it comes to classes, it doesn't affect us all. When it comes to racism, it doesn't affect us all. When it comes to even ableism, it doesn't affect all of us. But when it comes to something like a virus, that's not going to just touch you and avoid me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to get to both of us because we're both human.
Yeah, it doesn't pick. It just acts. It just goes and freely. So
it's not going to say Christian has an ability to do all these other things that are going to keep him from getting this virus, or Nano is going to have all these other things that are going to keep him from getting this virus. No, like, it does not do that. It doesn't have that processes. That's the prefrontal cortex. That's this part over here. This virus that we're talking about doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So we have the ability to beat this.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of us coming together and doing it. And I think our root of it isn't just disease, right? Disease is like racism and classism. It's our disease that we refuse to see each other as humans.
It's the disease of selfishness. That's what it is.
The disease of selfishness. I like that.
Yeah,
sure.
and
I hate that, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time to be selfish, like we said, but there's times to act as one. And what I mean by one is human race.
The one human race, the one that we all are.
Yeah.
We all have the same heart beating through our heart, and
exactly.
If we want to keep that beating, we have to come together and understand that you have a heart beating, they have a heart beating, and we just, that's what we want. We want that heart. Our bodies intrinsically want that to continue to survive. So let's let our bodies do that. Like, let's let that oxytocin release. Yeah. Let's help each other out.
Like Eugeni's tattoo, man. When I was doing his tattoo, and he was explaining to me the reason he got that tattoo is the flower of life, because we're all geometrically the same. We're all created from the same thing. And when he said that, I was like, dude, like I have to use that sometime. And it's true, bro. Like, we gotta understand we're the same. If you look at the picture of every single nerve in the body, we all come down to look the same, even if we didn't have bone, flesh, or skin. If you looked at the nerves in our body, we're all the same.
We're all the same.
We're all geometrically the same. Thanks,
We all have the
thanks
same
again
nervous
for that.
system, and that same nervous system is going to respond to fear.
Yeah.
It's going to respond to excitement, to any external thing that's happening around us. Our body's going to react similarly. We have to.
Yeah, we've all been through similar things. We've all seen sadness. We've all been happy. We've all lost loved ones. We've all experienced struggle, anxiety, just everything, man. We all have experienced it. We've experienced at least one of those things. We've all experienced the same thing at least once, and I believe we did. Because if you didn't, then you wouldn't know. There ain't no way a person in life crosses in front of you and tells you, "I've never been sad in my life. I've never been happy in my life." Like, no, you're lying to yourself. You're lying to me and yourself.
As an infant, when you came out of your mom's womb, I was gonna say vagina.
I know.
I didn't come out of a vagina. But when you come out of your mom's womb, you cry because you've been pulled out of your safety. You've been sad. You're saddened. You become sad.
It was your comfort zone. That was our comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. You've lost something. And when you lose something, that's your spark of sadness. Mm-hmm. You become sad because you lost something that you value. You value that safety net that you had within the womb. Now you don't have that. Now you have to learn how to strive for yourself, right? You have to learn how to use your lungs to take that deep breath of air. You can't just rely on this umbilical cord no more. Yeah, that's only going to make you more resilient. And resiliency is something that no one can take away from you.
And every living person, no matter
what they've done to you.
Every living person has been through that experience. We may not have seen it, or we don't have a memory on that because we're still developing.
But your body does.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. We're one. We are one, and if you like it or not, if you think one group's superior than the other group, we're still the same. We're one. We're human. You bleed, I bleed. You cry, I cry. And it's just the way it is, and yeah.
That's beautiful. I think that to me is beautiful. It's beautiful to know that we're not alone in our own experiences, no matter how unique our experience is. There's no level of anxiety that I'm gonna have in my life that I can't go to somebody and say, look, this is what I'm going through. And their inability to not validate me is not my own inability to validate myself. But when I'm supported by that person, when that person does validate me, it's a win-win solution for the both of us. It's them helping me out. Mm-hmm. Now that they've helped me out, what is going to happen in their own brain? Oxytocin is going to be released. They're going to be able to heal from something so much more differently than I could ever heal from. Because later in my future, I'm going to heal from that different level of oxytocin. Because I had this other person help me.
There's this song, man, "Lean on Me." You've heard that song, "Lean on Me"?
Yeah.
In that song, there's a line in that.
Fun fact: that song was the last song played at my early middle school banquet in 8th grade.
No way. No. Hey, let me tell you.
Not many people out here will know it, but you will. I won't say names out loud, but OF, we all danced that song together.
Okay, that song, there's a line in that song, and how you were saying, there may be someone that can help you through a certain time in your life where you're going through this anxiety, where you're having anxiety and you don't know how to overcome it. And in that song, it says, I don't know if it's exactly like this, but it goes, you might have a problem, or I might have a problem that you may understand. And then, so he's basically saying, there's friends in life that, we need friends in life. Yeah, we have family members, but it's hard to open up to family members as well. There's and the way he says it, there might be a problem that you may understand. And then it says, we all need someone to lean on. And that right there, exactly how you were saying, there's this guy that helps you out with a certain problem in your life, and we have to be people friendly, outspoken, and be able to come across strangers and be like, hey, like, my name's so and so, and become a friend. And because you never know when you're going to go through a certain situation in your life, and no one in your life that you grew up with, family, your mom, your brother, your sister, anybody, they might not ever know how to solve that problem for you. But if you had friends and you were able to open up to random people, they can be like, hey, I've been through that same situation. This will help you out. You do that certain thing to help that situation out, and hey, there you go. It helped out, you know. And that's why that song there. That's why that song there, "Lean on Me." I know. I've asked people too that. Do you believe? Do you believe you'll live a happy life with just knowing your immediate family, brother, sister, mother, father, and do you believe that that's all you need in your life? And me personally, I believe that we also need friends. We need other people there, and especially because that song too that opened me up to that. So yeah, you just
We're all part of a human collective experience.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that, like, because we're all human, we have the human experience, but some of us have it just so much more collective than others.
Yeah.
And that's not something that needs to separate us. If anything, that's going to be what's going to help us build bridges to our gaps within our society.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in, you don't just survive with your family, you survive with the family that you choose to have, the people that are around you. And I live that. I know it, because as much as I can be myself with my family, there's nothing like being myself when I don't have that bloodline attached to me, right?
Yeah.
Where I don't have that sense of fear of the thing that I might say, or the thing that I might not, that make me less of the person that I think this person sees me as.
Yeah.
There comes on top of that, there comes a whole nother healing aspect when you have been yourself, because then you grow. I think of it as like me with my family. Before I came out, I was just this.
You cut off. Yo.
And my
Hey,
cocoon,
hold on.
coming out here. I was.
I know you
out
cut off
there.
a little bit. Go back like another 15 seconds. So you were saying
okay, so what I was saying was, like, when I was coming out, like, I
Okay.
thought before I was coming out, I saw my life as this, like, caterpillar just dragged me through life trying to figure out
How-
what am I going to do next, right? But then in my coming out process, like, I became this cocoon, and this cocoon didn't burst when I had came out to folks. No, this cocoon came when I left my family, right? When I left Early Mar and I went to Chico, and I developed this different sense of myself, this liberated sense of myself where I could actually be myself,
Yeah.
and have experiences with folks that lived my life, something
Yeah.
that I've gone through, that idea of that caterpillar dragging through life, not being themselves. And even having come out to your family, still not finding that piece of yourself that you're like, why am I still so different? But when I went to Chico State and I developed this whole array of friends that meant all these different perspectives, the spectrum of perspectives of life, I realized that those are the little spots that I've had. Like, each family member that I have makes a part of the wings, the beautiful wings that are me, right? The butterfly that I am. But had I not come out to this person, I wouldn't have had this conversation that shifted this, or right? If my cousin didn't out me to my other cousin, that wouldn't have not made this spark of the piece of the butterfly that makes it even so much more bigger,
Yeah,
like, so much
yeah.
more beautiful. But me breaking the cocoon was me being in Chico and recognizing that I don't have to change anything of myself. I just have to love myself.
Yeah, exactly.
And anything about myself that I need to change is my ability to love myself.
And that's the time to be selfish. You're cutting off again. Yo.
and they love me so much more differently. The way my family loves me today is not the way they used to love me. They love me as somebody else, that whoever that person. I'm still Nano, but now I'm Nano in a whole different greater force. But that's because I've come together with myself. I've helped build myself together with the pieces of love that have been given to me in ways that I can build that. And I feel like that's a testament to what love can do, right? What loving yourself can do is such a greater force than hating my family for not accepting me who I was, or hating my father for not being the person I needed him to be, right? All these things that may have infiltrated a different sense of myself, right? Now I can love myself so much more differently. And by loving myself, what can I do in the world? I can see unity in the world. I'm able to see through a different sense of glasses that say, actually, it's not just racism that's happening here, it's a lack of understanding. It's a lack of inability of people to see each other where they're at, where in the positions that they are at. And when you can do that, it makes so much more sense. You learn and you grow more. When you learn and you grow more, you understand what the other person's going through. That's not sympathy anymore, that's empathy. When you strive to put yourself in another person's shoes to try to understand them, it takes a lot more courage to do that, and it takes a lot more empathy to be able to do that. You're not minimizing the person's experience, or more importantly, you're not dehumanizing them. You're not sympathizing with them. You're empathizing with them, and that's love. That's beautiful. And it took a person to empathize with themselves to be able to empathize with other people, because that's what we have to do. We have to love each other in order for us to transform and grow. I never would have been able to do that if it wasn't for my own lived experiences. But I'm a butterfly now, and now nobody can ever take my wings away because I gave myself my wings. Sure, people are gonna still say things and not always be well, sure, people will still be homophobic and will still be sexist in the language that they use, or just not respect me as a human, right? Dehumanize me in my own. But you can't dehumanize a person who humanizes themselves, and that's why, fuck our Constitution, because I've been free. I'm a liberated person because I've liberated myself. When we live under a form of government, we're not liberated as we think we are. We're still following a form of government, a system of government that tells us what our rights are, and James Madison said it, as the people change, the Constitution has to change, and I haven't seen that happen, so we gotta make it happen.
Well, that's good content, bro. This is good content.
They're fun.
Yeah, so, I don't know, man, you wanna set this off?
I'm gonna give it to you because I'm still learning from you a little bit. I like how you start this. I think it's super great. You give a little background, you tell people to follow us and all that. So I'm still gonna learn from you. How about that?
All right. So we're gonna cut this off already. We got some pretty long content today. And
what's our time?
It's right now we're at 1:57.
An hour and 57. We almost went 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
I mean,
hey, we had technical difficulties at first, but we made it work.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, guys. We want to give you guys all kinds of different topics, different content. Like I said in the beginning, this channel here was created for us to all become one community and be able to speak our minds, because I know a lot of people stay, like I said in the beginning as well, they stay muted and they're speechless because it's not because they choose to be, it's because they're very scared of just speaking their minds, because they don't want other people to think badly about them because on their opinions and their thoughts. See, this is our first time creating this podcast, and I like how it turned out for the first video that we're gonna upload. But see, we're on camera, we're camera shy, we're still breaking our shells.
We're breaking our shells, yeah.
But I mean, it's fun. If you guys are willing to hop on the podcast with us, we're doing this podcast through Zoom. So just leave your guys' a Zoom account information on the comments, and we'll start bringing in more people, and eventually we have a whole community like how we're trying to create. So far, we have a lot of family members that are willing to come into this podcast, but even if there's friends, just random people that are willing to speak, man, you guys just join our podcast. Hey, I was gonna tell you, Nano, how do you feel about naming this the Famcast? And we're all family.
I like Famcast. The reason why I like Famcast is because, like I said earlier today, like we get to choose our family.
Yeah, and
like,
it's not
you
saying
and I
like
are gonna be brothers and we're blood brothers forever.
Yeah.
But the ability of having like a conversation about family, it just brings a conversation about how unified we can be when it comes just to being humans, like. Because that's what we are. We're humans. We're humans who've been brought together by our lived experiences, and that's never gonna change. Like. You will always be primos, but family is something that can shift, that can change, and I mean, we know wholeheartedly that the people that we've lost, our loved ones that we've lost, our family that we've lost, they still live within us, and so like, it doesn't mean that they're not our family, or let alone that they have to be blood relative. Like, my Nino is always going to be my Nino because he gave me my first communion, but on top of that, like, he gave me wisdom. And my Nino Lado will always be that person in my life that gave me the wisdom, and he didn't need to be my blood relative for that. Like, you grow so much from family that you don't need that blood relation, but it's so beautiful, it's so much more profound when you recognize that within your own blood relation, you're not as isolated as you sometimes might feel like you are.
Yeah,
so I like it.
Famcast?
When you say the Fam Podcast?
The Famcast.
Famcast?
Yeah, Famcast. I feel like it's a cool one.
Famcast. Famcast.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, so
it's pretty hip and cool.
I mean, we're gonna go ahead and go with Famcast.
I give it a 2 thumbs up.
All right, Famcast it is. So that's gonna be the name of this YouTube channel. Go ahead and spread the word. Spread the word and spread your word in the comments. You know, I want to see these comments flood with your guys' opinions on what we were speaking on today. Like I said, no damning each other, no saying who's wrong, who's right. Just express your feelings, your thoughts, and we hope we can grow with the knowledge you're expressing and giving to us, you know. And that's what we hope for you guys, is to learn some of the knowledge we have in certain beliefs, and you guys expand your mind with that knowledge, and we'll just keep growing and growing and growing as a community, man. Sounds good?
Yeah, we will.
So we'll go ahead and get
I hope they give a thumbs up.
So we're gonna see when we get together again and do another podcast on whichever topic comes up. If you guys have any comments, any topics in mind, go ahead and leave them in the comments. We'll scroll down and we'll start to we'll vote on which one we want to go on, or which one we want to talk about next. Sound good?
Yeah. And even if they like what we're talking about, tell us that you like it, and then we'll keep
going. Yeah, we'll keep going. I mean, we could have kept going, but
a little bit more.
Yeah,
I
got work in like 3 hours, 4 hours, so. But
hey, knowing those we can talk
And if we get more of our family members and stuff involved, it just keeps going on and on, man. It's a non-stop conversation, so yeah. So we're gonna head off. So remember, make sure to subscribe, comment, let your friends know, let your moms know, fathers, cousins, any relative, anybody, let everyone on the street know about our channel. And we out.
Take care, y'all.
See ya.
Peace, love.
Yeah. Famcast.